So why did we save this video for last? Well, when it comes to just how we typically approach things at HyperOFit, we try to do the things that take the least amount of mental work possible before doing the thing that takes the most amount of mental work possible. So when it comes to counting macros, counting calories, some people are just numbers people. If you're a numbers person and you want to start with this approach, then by all means you can do that. But we found just in our experience of coaching hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clients, thousands at this point, lots of people. Anyway, is that this approach for some can be really overwhelming. If it's not done properly, it can be done incorrectly. And it's also not something you're going to do for the rest of your life, hopefully, right? We don't want to say you have to count carbs and calories, macros and calories for the rest of your life. So I would encourage you, if you're watching this video, it means it's the end of this nutrition section, do all of the other things first, right? Like eat the 80-20 rule, have a protein forward approach to your foods, eat minimally processed whole foods most of the time, control how often you eat out, right? Like all the things we talked about, understand proteins, fats, and carbs, understand all these things, get your fruits and veggies in, like do all of the basics first, right? And then if you do all those things and you're still not seeing the results you want, that's when we'll typically go to macros. So we coach macros, don't get me wrong, I'm not like against them. Like I use them for my one-on-one clients and they can be really helpful. But like I could do the caveat there at the beginning, it can just be a little overwhelming for some. So typically the approach I'll take is I'll try the basics first. Hey, are you exercising? Okay, let's do that. Are you having enough protein? No? Okay, let's do that. Where are your fruits and veggies at? Okay, let's bump that up. How's your water intake? Doing all the basics first. And then typically that results in my clients losing 10, 20, 30, 40 pounds and gaining muscle along the way. But then inevitably plateaus do happen. And so that's when, counting calories, counting macros can really come in handy. So with all of that in place, let's talk about it. Like if you're gonna do it, let's make sure we're doing it right. So I don't have a food scale. You're not gonna watch me like weigh food. But I guess we can make a video on that. But anyway, where do you start if you're wanting to track your macros and then make adjustments based on them? So you'll know in the app that you can set your macros, right, based on your goals. But that's just kind of based off of like a formula, right? Which is good and you can use that. But here's kind of the approach that I'll typically coach people through. Is the first thing you have to figure out is what is your, estimated maintenance calorie intake. So how do you figure this out? So, that basically means, let's say you've hit a plateau and you've not lost any weight for a couple weeks at a time. Okay, well then you need to start tracking everything you eat and drink with calories for like a week or two and without changing anything. So you're eating exactly the same way, start tracking everything, because assuming after a week or two of tracking everything, your weight hasn't changed, that means you've been tracking maintenance calories, and you want to take the average of those 1 or 2 weeks. And so how does this look like practically speaking? We're tracking maintenance calories. Okay, well, for breakfast, if you're having a couple of eggs, a serving of Greek yogurt, some berries, it means you're weighing stuff out in a food scale. It means you're also not forgetting to track your cooking oils, right? So a lot of people there's olive oil. It's like, oh, cooking olive oil, it's super healthy. It is, but don't forget that oils are calorically dense, right? For every 1 gram of fat, it's like 9 calories. And so a serving size of a cooking oil is only about the size of your thumb, right? And so if you just like do this kind of number with olive oil, you might be adding like 3, 4, 5 servings of olive oil to your eggs. And so you're having tons of calories. So actually weigh out, like measure out like what's a serving, right? Is it a tablespoon? Is it a teaspoon? And actually like properly measure what you're doing, log it in our app, log it somewhere, and don't log it at the end of the day. As you're going throughout your day, you have to log everything on the spot, weigh, measure, do what you need to do, log everything as you're going, because you're not going to remember later that night. So you're logging breakfast, you're logging your protein shake for snack, you're logging your lunch. You're not forgetting to log all the cooking oils, butter, olive oil, avocado. I don't care what cooking oils, you're logging it, you're tracking it, you're measuring it, and then you're getting the average over the course of a week or two. So let's say that average ends up being 2,100 calories. And so that is now your starting place. So your maintenance calories are 2,100 calories. So let's say your goal is to lose 10 pounds, right? Something like that. Okay, I want to lose 10 pounds in 10 weeks, right? A pound a week. Okay, So that is a moderate calorie deficit. So for most people, that means you need to cut about 250 to 500 calories a day on average to hit about 1 to 2 pounds a week, give or take. Okay, so what are the first things you need to kind of deduce? So you now know what your maintenance calories are, 2,100 calories. The next thing you have to figure out is your protein goals, because that's gonna be the next most important number. If you've been following us, you know we love protein. Eat your protein first. And so let's say you're shooting for 1 gram of protein per pound. You're currently at 150 pounds. That means 150 grams of protein. And so some math here. And a lot of our calculator will do this for you and stuff, but just so you know kind of where we're coming from. So 150 times 4, because there's 4 calories in a gram of protein. So that'd be 600 calories of your day need to come from protein. Okay, we'll put that number up here. So that means you have 1,500 calories left for the day that can come from carbs and fats, right? So in my opinion, I could care less how you divvy that up. If you prefer carbs over fats, cool. If you prefer fats over carbs, cool. But basically, you know that 600 of those calories are going to come from protein, 1,500 from carbs and fats for maintenance, right? So now to be in a deficit, what I would probably do is I would carve out a little bit of the protein. Maybe let's go down to 140 grams of protein or so, 130, 140, somewhere in there. And then most of that cut's gonna come from the carbs and fats, right? So you're in a 250 to 500 calorie deficit a day, which means 2,100 calories is your maintenance. And let's just say easy math, now we're shooting for 1,600 calories a day. So as you're tracking, as you're logging your food, you've already done that, so you can look and you can say, okay, where do I need to cut based on my averages to find 500 calories or 250 calories or however big of a deficit you want. So let's say you're gonna cut half of your cooking oils out, or half of your carbs out at your lunch or something like that, right? So then I would then set your macros in your app to 1,600 calories. And then the first couple of days is gonna probably be a little shocking, a little surprising, but I would start by setting your calories at 1,600. And once again, this is all an example. I have no idea what your calories are, but at 1,600, and then logging your breakfast, right? And let's say your breakfast is coming in at 500 calories. A 500 calorie breakfast is that's a pretty big breakfast. That's like eggs, yogurt, fruit, like a piece of toast. Like it's not nothing. Like you're gonna be full, as long as it's not like junk, like a donut or something like that. Even though donuts are so good, guys. So like, don't hear what I'm not saying. I love me a donut. I love this other food, but in general, there are exceptions and not rules. And so then you go to your lunch, and let's say for lunch you had to go out to eat with colleagues, right? And so hopefully you can look up the restaurant. Hopefully you can find their calories and their macros on there. If you can't, I would honestly just get like a protein and a veggie, and just because every restaurant has a protein and veggie option these days. And then say, okay, I ate steak and I ate Brussels sprouts, and then don't forget to log and assume at least 1 to 2 servings of cooking oils. You just need to do that. And then let's say that comes out to 500 calories, again, easy math. So I now have 600 calories left for my dinner. So you might find that after making your dinner, you had a 600 calorie dinner, and so that's it for the day, right? You now know that if you want to be in this calorie deficit you set, there's no room for snacks, there's no room for like protein shakes, there's no room for anything else. And you might say, I'm okay with that. I had 3 squares, I can move on. You might say, no, like I was like really hungry or I needed a snack. Okay, so then you need to adjust one of these 3 levers, find like maybe 100 calories in each to give you a 300 calorie snack before bed or between lunch and dinner, right? So a lot of this, when it comes to weight manipulation, I joke with my clients all the time, you are a glorified science experiment. You are gonna collect variables and data in the form of tracking for a week or 2. You're gonna then form a hypothesis. I need to cut 250 to 500 calories a day to lose weight. And then you are going to test the hypothesis of, okay, can I do this consistently for a couple of weeks on average? If the answer is yes, and then we see the weight loss happen, great, awesome. If the answer is no, and maybe it's because you did track everything and you didn't see the weight loss, maybe it needs to be lower, or it's, hey, I just didn't hit this number consistently and I lost a little bit of weight, but not as much as I wanted to. Anyway, once again, collect the data, make a new game plan, collect data, make a new hypothesis, collect data. You are a glorified science experiment, right? And then if you keep hitting brick walls, that's when you reach out to me or get connected with a coach one-on-one or something like that, right? So we can help you potentially deduce what's going on. So This is the idea of tracking. It's a little bit cumbersome, it's a little bit tedious, and honestly, not meant to be done for the rest of your life. The most important thing with tracking is your consistency, right? I would have somebody track consistently over being extremely precise, right? So you doing it and doing it consistently and tracking the same way consistently is the most important thing over being super exacting and precise with every single measurement. So do it for a few weeks, and if you see the results you want to see, awesome. Maybe that means you have your go-to 3 or 4 breakfasts, 3 or 4 lunches, and 3 or 4 dinners, and you just rotate between it because you know it works, right? And then you can lay off tracking for a while until, once again, you're not seeing the results you want, and then maybe you do another log or an audit for a week or 2, right? So definitely, if you haven't caught the kind of where I'm going, when it comes to tracking calories, use it as an audit. Use it as a tool to audit what you're doing, not as like something you always have to do. If you're a numbers person and you just enjoy it, go for it. My brain doesn't work like that. I can do it. It's kind of tedious, kind of cumbersome, but once again, the thing I would say always be mindful of and always track would be your protein, right? So always be mindful of protein, but once you get your maintenance dialed in, once you eat pretty consistently, then you don't have to always track every single little thing you eat. So anyway, hope you find this helpful. If you have any questions, let me know. God bless.